Most of California, as we know it, names, cities, mountains, rivers, agriculture, the orchards, they all came from Serra and the missionaries. The missions themselves became centers of commerce. Our heritage, in a sense, our patrimony in terms of our identity comes from that.
Serra was a direct contemporary of Benjamin Franklin and some of our most famous founding fathers, but he was a very different kind of person. He was a representative of an expanding monarchy, of an authoritarian government. I mean, he did not believe in liberty in the way that our traditional founding fathers did. He didn't believe in religious freedom, except to express his Catholicism in a full manner. But he was a very different kind of founding father, but that shouldn't mean that he's irrelevant to our nation's history. I mean, the kind of beliefs that he held were extraordinarily significant in California and elsewhere, and to many people they still are central beliefs in terms of the Catholic religion.
When kids ask questions about religion in church, it's always that, no, what can I say? When people do come and make changes, it's not always fun. So when I teach my class, I always talk about, changes are tough. There's good and there's bad.
What do you think it would have been like to live here way back then?
I think it would be hard to live here because it was different than it is now. I would try to not get into fights and try to stay alive.
I've learned how the Native Americans were treated and how the mission system worked.
I know when I give tours to fourth graders, if it comes up, well, how come, the Indians came and they weren't allowed to leave, and they were prisoners and they were slaves. And I try to sit down and explain to them that you can't look at history through the lens of today. You can't look at the way people were treated. And they'll say, well, didn't they get whipped? I'd say, people got flogged in those days, but so did the Spanish flog the Spanish. When you disobeyed, it was an immediate action and consequence. And because today we don't look at it that way, you can't take that and revisit it upon history and try to judge people that way. And so I try to get them to turn it around and realize his heart really was in the right place, and he was a good man, and he stood up for the Native Americans over and over and over again. It bothered him tremendously that the Spanish soldiers were mistreating the natives.
One of the greatest quotes I see his detractors using right now is that Junipero Serra writes, every year at a mission we have two harvests. We have the harvest of the wheat and the corn, and then we have the harvest of the souls in heaven. And what he's meaning, the souls in heaven, are those people who have died. But they're not looking at it from Serra's point of view. I came here, and the greatest thing I could do for these people could possibly be is to baptize them 5 minutes before he or she dies, so I can win that person paradise.
There's this image at Mission Dolores that we have. It's a painting of this young lonely kid. He's wearing a loincloth, and Junipero Serra has weed in his hand and a cross in the other hand, bringing food and religion. I always use this as an educational piece when I give tours, because I ask the fourth graders that come, who do you think painted this? Do you think it was a European, or do you think it was an Ohlone person? They'll all say it's a European. And I'll ask them, do they look like they're equals to you, the Spanish and Junipero Serra? And they'll say no, they don't look like they're equal. I'll ask them, does it look like Junipero Serra is protecting this Ohlone kid? They'll say yeah. Then I'll ask, if people were living perfectly on their own for 15,000 years, do you think that they really needed protection? And they'll say no.
And one of the charges that California bishops and the Franciscans are embarking on is looking at the curriculum for the fourth grade Catholic school students where they study the missions. We're going to look at this critically, and they use the California state textbooks. And we're going to determine whether this needs to be edited and rewritten from just not a romantic point of view, but from a point of view that is true to what happened. So it would include the Native American, California Mission Indian issues. It would include the Franciscan, the whole theology that's behind this, the missiology, where Serra and the friars were coming from in their mind and in their thinking. And where we are today and how these missions have brought us to this place today.